Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. My name is Melissa and today we're talking about my most anticipated releases for the third quarter of the year. I have my eyes set on 8 books for the next 3 months, July, August, and September. I'm sure there may be other books I don't mention here that I will inevitably pick up. However, I'm sharing the ones that have caught my eye. I want to break this down by month, starting with any YA releases and then following up with the adult releases, so let's get into it. For July, I currently only have one book that I'm looking forward to. It is called The Book of Gothel by Mary McMine, and this is an adult debut novel, and it is a villain origin story of Rapunzel. So the blurb that I read mentioned something to the effect of, I'm sure we all know the story of Rapunzel, but do we know anything about who put her in that tower? Now, when I was reading a couple of the reviews, I was immediately intrigued with the references to Wicked by Gregory Maguire. And if you haven't read this book, this is another villain origin story where we know what happened in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy defeated the Wicked Witch. But this is the story of how the Wicked Witch became the Wicked Witch. And it is such a great story. It is a very dark telling in comparison to the frilly fun movie that we all love and enjoy. Any information beyond the origin story of Rapunzel, I really don't want to know. I feel Rapunzel is one of those fairy tales that isn't as widely used for retelling. Maybe I'm just clueless. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to reading this book. Moving forward to August, I have 4 to share. There are 3 YA and 1 is adult, and most of you probably already know which adult book I'm talking about, as it is a very popular book and I'm hearing about it everywhere. But first, let's get into the YA. The first one I want to talk about is A Duel with the Vampire Lord by Elise Kova. This is releasing August 18th and I'm really excited for this one. This is her 3rd installment in the Married to Magic novel series. I will say, if you're unfamiliar with this series, each one is a standalone novel. However, they are all set in the same world of Midscape. So in the first one, we visited the Elf Kingdom in a deal with the Elf King. The second one, we visited the Fey Wilds, where we had a dance with the Fey Prince. And now in this third one, we are going to be going into the Vampire Mountains in A Duel with the Vampire Lord. This is a YA fantasy romance, and I absolutely love Elise Kova's writing. She does self-publish all of her books, so the debut date on the 18th is not a Tuesday like you typically would see in publishing. These books are perfect for quick and easy reads. I always devour them quickly, and I find they're a great relief in between those epic, real thick fantasy books that we all read. Some might say it could be considered a guilty pleasure. I really don't like using that term. I feel like you shouldn't have to feel guilty for reading any kind of book, but in order to explain to you, it's not like this big epic story. It is just a fun, slow burn romance. You really don't get any smut in these, so if that is something that you are looking for, these aren't the books for you. Obviously, on the other hand, if you're someone like me who doesn't mind a romance without all the smut and enjoys those types of books, these are definitely ones you want to check out. Okay, so moving on, we have a release on October 23rd, which is A Venom Dark and Sweet. This is the conclusion to the Book of Tea duology by Judy Lin. This reminds me a lot of Elizabeth Lim's Spin the Dawn series. It kind of reads similar to that. There's some plot similarities. So if you did enjoy the Spin the Dawn duology, you will definitely enjoy this one. So in the first book, A Magic Steeped in Poison, which I believe just came out in May or June. I do believe that's when I read it. But anyways, we follow Ning, who has already lost her mother to this poison tea. And now that same poison tea has threatened to take her sister's life. Her sister is very ill. So she hears of a competition in the magical art of tea making. If she can win, she will gain a favor from the princess, and she plans to use this favor to save her sister's life. So she travels to the main kingdom for this competition, and while she is in the palace, she is soon involved in a lot more than just the competition. She is dealing with some backstabbing competitors. There's a lot of politics going on. There's some dark secrets involved, and things just aren't what they seem. Now, that being said, the first book was not like a great read for me. I was actually a little bit disappointed. It wasn't a bad book. It just didn't quite grip me like I wanted. However, I did enjoy the concept of magic in tea making, and that part of it was so lyrical and beautifully written. And the ending of the book left me with enough of a cliffhanger that I have to read the second one to see how Ning's story ends. So I do look forward to this one as well. The last YA I have been waiting over a year to get my hands on. And I saw it on NetGalley, I requested it, and I was so thankful and excited when it got approved. That book is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. She is the author of the All the Stars and Teeth duology, and if you watched my recent top 5 fantasy duologies, that one was on that list. I really enjoyed it last year. I think it won 2020's Best Fantasy Series of the Year or Best Book of the Year. I really enjoyed it. When she started talking about her new book, I was immediately intrigued. Belladonna is a gothic-infused romantic mystery following Signa, who ends up making alliances with Death himself to uncover a murderer. This reminds me, the sound of it anyway, a little bit of the Kingdom of the Wicked series by Kerri Maniscalco, and I'm really interested to see how this one reads, as it is a very different subject matter from Adeline's previous duology of All the Stars and Teeth. And finally, the last book for August is the only adult book for this month, and that is none other than Babel by R.F. Kuang. I really wasn't planning on picking this book up for quite a while. I still haven't read the Poppy War series, and I really hate to get my hands on another one of her books without reading the Poppy Wars series first. However, I recently watched a review video on A Frolic Through Fiction. She did a reading vlog on this, and she absolutely gushed over this book. One interesting thing she talked about was the fact that although this is considered to be a fantasy story, it is much more focused on the dark academia themes with a little bit of fantastical elements rolled in. But she talks about how it is told in such a relatable and sometimes brutal way that we all know university can be. She speaks about all the different important topics that this book discusses, and it really tickled my curiosity in a way that I must read that book myself. And I will link her video in the description box below for you to check out. I highly recommend that review. It was done so well. And there's some aesthetic pleasing moments of B-roll that made it for a very great review video. Moving on to September, we have 2 books. One is a YA and the other is adult. Now, the YA book that I'm about to tell you about is the 3rd top book of my most anticipated series or book releases for the year, and that is none other than Kingdom of the Feared by Kerri Maniscalco. This is the conclusion of this trilogy, and the cliffhanger in the second book left me so frustrated because we are left, I mean, a cliffhanger. She just drops it on you and then boom, you have reached the end of book 2 and you have to wait till book 3. I don't know if you can hear that, but there are sirens. I'm waiting for my dogs to start howling. Okay, I'm sure most of you already know or have read this series, but if you haven't, we are following Amelia in the first book. It is set in 1800s Italy, and her twin sister was found murdered. So Amelia sets out to find the killer, and in doing so, she unknowingly binds herself to Wrath, who is a demon, in order to find out where her sister is. Throughout this story, there is the very angsty, slow burn relationship that develops between the two of them. This is another one of those books that you could call a, quote, guilty pleasure of mine, but I loved the second book. The first one, I wasn't really sure what the big hype was. I felt Amelia's character was a little too adolescent and too naive. However, we do see her character arc progress greatly in the second novel, and I absolutely enjoyed the second one and cannot wait to read the final book in this series. Okay, the last book I am going to share for September is an adult fantasy, obviously, and that is none other than Ruination by Anthony Reynolds. And I only found this because I went on to Orbit's publishing site and was taking a look at their publishing schedule, and the cover of this caught my eye. Apparently it's set in a popular video game called League of Legends, which I've never heard of, but in reading the synopsis, it sounds like your classic fantasy in which we follow a female named Callista whose uncle Vigo becomes king. And Vigo is described as being a very young and narcissistic individual, so she decides to become his advisor and his military general in order to hopefully tame some of his destructive behaviors. However, Vigo's wife becomes stabbed with a poisoned blade, and Callista must go on this quest to find the fabled Blessed Isles, which is rumored to be able to save the queen's life. So I'm really interested to see what I think about this book. There aren't any reviews posted on Goodreads as of the time I'm recording this, so I really couldn't get a good idea of what other people thought, so I guess time will tell, but it is one that I am interested in picking up. Okay guys, that's it. I hope you found some recommendations of books you would like to read. Let me know down in the comments if you plan to read any of these or share any other releases that you are excited about. As always, if you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you very soon in my next video. So until next time, bye guys!